We got a 2005 Mustang lifters, which is what they're typically called, but they're actually hydraulic lash adjusters. They are making a ticking noise, primarily coming from the passenger side, but we're going to go ahead and replace them all today. Couldn't find any video specifically on this car of it being done. So we've got the 4.0 liter single overhead cam V6. That's the bimetal engine. It has the aluminum heads on it. And I'll go ahead and show you what the valve tap sounds like, and then we'll get into it. Okay, so that should have given you a good idea what the sound it's making. It's a pretty distinctive knock. Sounds like metal on metal, but it's being muffled by the plastic valve cover. So we're going to go ahead and get some of this stuff out of the way, get this valve cover off, and see what we're looking at. All right, we got our valve cover off, and getting in here and just doing a little looking around. And these hydraulic lash adjusters are certainly loose. This one's got the lobe pointed down on it, so it's pretty tight. But this one, let me get down here, that's just lifting up on it. I mean, you know, the rocking back and forth is enough, but lifting up, that's a lot. These little guys are pumped up, I think, as much as they're going to, so they are no longer pumping up. Now, I ordered a tool for this. I've been waiting on it. It's not here, but I'm impatient, so I'm gonna try what I've seen a couple other folks do, which is just get under here, under the lip. And on the 2005 Mustang, there is enough room to get a regular length screwdriver in here, and I'm just gonna pry up on this. Just push very gently, and that looks like success. I'm gonna try it again. Let's see how I get lucky twice. Yep, they're just popping off. So all I'm doing is just, you can see where I'm here. I'm just using the edge of this. It is aluminum, but I don't think I'm doing any damage to it. You could be a little extra cautious if you wanted to, and put a shop rag down there. Certainly not going to hurt. But if you look at where the O-ring in the valve cover seats, where it actually sits, it's not on the edge here, it's in the middle. So by the time you get this thing cranked up, you're not even anywhere near the edge of the lip, and I'm not leaving a ding on it anyway. Let me go ahead and get a few of these out, and we'll take a look at them and see how they look. Okay, so a little bit of an update. What happened here was this rocker arm, this is the one that everybody seems to have a little trouble with. And the issue is, even if you have the tool, you can't get the tool in here because of the way that the head is shaped. There's not enough space to get it in there. So I knew that was going to be problems going into it. But my mechanic buddy told me a trick that he uses is to loosen the cam chain tensioner down here just a little bit. If you can see it, I've just backed it out just a few turns. It's maybe, I got about 1/8 of an inch, maybe just shy of 1/8 of an inch between the inside of the bolt flange and the head. And then I went through and I loosened the cap bolts. These you don't have to loosen much, but as you get towards this other end, because the cam, what's gonna happen, it's gonna lift up like this from this end. This end's not really gonna move much at all. It may rise up just a little bit. You can see I've got the cap lifted there a little bit, and it's not even using as much space as I've given it. But down here, the cam is actually lifted out of the seat just enough, because what happened was I was able to pop that rocker loose down here, but I wasn't able to slide it out. I fidgeted with it for quite a few minutes, but it was stuck in its place. It kind of got stuck right in here. I got it about halfway out. And then once I was confident that I wasn't going to be able to get it out by futzing with it, I went ahead and took my mechanic buddy's suggestion and loosened the cam. Came straight out. I turned the engine about a 1/4 rotation using a 19mm wrench down on the harmonic balance, or 19mm socket down on the harmonic balance with a short 2-inch extension. I was able to turn it over just about a 1/4, half turn, and I got these two lobes pointed back, you know, rotated them where they were off of the rocker arms, and we got all the rocker arms out. So now it's just going to be a matter of going through and pulling out these lash adjusters. Let me get them all out and we'll take a look. Ran into a problem pulling this guy out. He was coming up and hitting the lobe. So I had to do another probably quarter turn on the harmonic balance stand there with the 19mm socket, and I was going to have the same problem with this one because this lobe is oriented pretty much the same direction. So now she comes right out, but before, I don't know if you can see that, this was coming up and bumping that lobe. We got our old valve lash adjusters out and lined up here. Not that order at this point makes really a difference, but this is just how I roll. So as you can see, these guys came straight out of the motor, so they should be pumped up. And they're pumped up about as far as they're going to go. If I get the bottom of these two lined up and then go to the top, I don't even have to measure that. Like, we've got a glaring difference in overall height. So yeah, let's we gotta go over and get these guys bled out because we don't want to put them into the engine like this fully jacked up. We want to go ahead and bleed them out a little bit so they're easier to get in. It's going to give us that extra little 1/8 of an inch or 3/16 of an inch there to play with. It takes a little bit less strain off the installation process, and they're going to pump right back up once they get pressurized. So that's not a big deal to put them in bled down. Okay, we'll go over to the vise now and do that. Okay. So there is no shortage of videos on how to do this, but just to make my video more or less complete, I'm going to do this. I've already done a couple cranks on this, but I've got this in the vise nice and securely. I've got it in the middle of the vise, so it's going to be pushing on it uniformly, not from one side. And I'm just going to turn very slowly here on the handle, and you see a little bit coming out. You can wipe it if you want, but now I'm just going to let it off, and then I'm going to crank again, get a little more out, go back. And you're just going to repeat this process until you've got it compressed down and it's not pumping itself back up. Okay, you don't have to get all the oil out, but if you get most of it out, it's going to give you that little bit of extra room. And you're not trying to, when you're cranking the vise, when you're tightening down on here, it's very important just to go slow. You're not trying to win a race. There's only 12 of these in a V6. Not going to take you that long. Just a minute or two each, not very long at all. Okay, and as you can see, I'm getting quite a bit of oil out of this little guy. It's got a pretty good sized reservoir down there in the bottom, and you can already see how much further down that plunger is. Okay, all right, I'm going to repeat this for the other 11 and go back over for the installation. Just want to illustrate one thing here. So let me grab one of these that has not been pumped yet, and I'm going to squeeze as hard as I can, and it's not even moving. It's not budging. It's hard as a rock, right? So that's what it's going to feel like when you put it in. This one is one we just had over at the vise, and we bled it down. And I'll show you. See how flexible that is? It just goes right in. So that's going to be super easy. We're not going to have to crank or pry really hard on the rocker arm to get that in. So that's the purpose of bleeding them in. All right, I got a few into this. So what I've found here is by backing the cam off, we don't need a tool at all. So what I'm doing here is I'm just taking the rocker arm, and I think it's actually called something else, not actually a rocker arm. And well, it helps if I turn it right side up, doesn't it? Stand by. As I was saying, you install the rocker arm right side up from the side, and all I'm doing is sort of just sliding it in there from the side and then pushing it right on. And I can't do it with one hand, but if I'm using two hands like I did for the other ones, you just kind of get the top on right there on the top of the valve, and then you just take the bottom and you just push it over. And because this is bled down, it is springy, and so it's going to give way, and it just lets you pop them right in like I did for these. Super easy. One other quick note, when you're pulling this off, you'll notice that the fuel line goes directly over the top of the valve cover, which is quite an impedance if you're trying to remove it. So right now I've got this bracket removed, but what I did is down underneath, way down behind the air conditioner compressor, right about here, but down into the engine block, is a 10mm bolt, and that bolt is holding this bracket on right here. You can't get to these screws, because if you get to those screws then you could loosen this, but the on here is where that bolt is, and it holds that bracket in. So if you get it out, it takes a little time, because when you first get to it you can only get about 1/8 of a turn on it. It takes a while, but if you back it out, then you can take this line and you can lift it up and push it over to the side, and that gives you enough clearance to get the valve cover off without actually depressurizing the line. All right, guys and girls, so we ran into a little bit of a snafu. What happened was I was pulling these the valve lash adjusters out, and what happened was the top came out. If you can see that last one, actually these last two, they both came apart when I was pulling them out. So I was grabbing this guy and it just slid right out the top, leaving the rest of it down in there. As you can see, I left that last one down there because I'm gonna show you how to get it out. If it happens, don't panic. You can get it out. You can still get it out. You're gonna need some special tools though. So what happens is this guy comes out. So that's out of the equation. So what happens is now you're looking down into this. Okay, first thing you do, I've got a set of these Blue Point hooks. They come in, there's a few different ones. I'm sure you can get other ones aside from Blue Point. But if you go in with this one first, a little 90-degree hook, you go in to the top of this, you can grab the inside of this little bucket and you can pull it up. And in my case, with both of these, it pulled up about halfway. So it was, you know, sticking up about that far. Was able to grab it with my long needle nose pliers and pull it out. And then I grabbed this guy, which is kind of like a mild corkscrew hook from the same set, and I was able to go in and dig this spring out. You probably don't have to, but I did anyway. And then what you want to do is go back to your 90, and you're going to be sticking this into the top like so, looking for this little hole right here. And it's about, you can see maybe 1/3, just shy of halfway down. Once you can get your hook into that, you can kind of twist it and pull up at the same time, and she'll come right out. And in my case, for both of these, like this one is up here at the 12 o'clock, about 12:30 position. I was only able to pull it up about that far before I felt like I was going to break my hook. So I stopped. This one did the same thing. It stopped when it got about that high up, and then I just grabbed it with my needle nose and yanked it the rest of the way out. So if that happens, don't panic, you still get it out. All right, here we are with the new hydraulic tappet adjusters installed. It is a lot quieter. A little bit of valve noise, but I think the oil is a little bit low. Fan keeps kicking on, that's another issue. But the adjusters have solved the tapping problem. So I hope this helps somebody. Thanks for watching.